Yes, Amma, good evening all.
Good evening, sir.
Good
Uh,
evening, sir.
Good evening, Amma. Yeah, so we'll continue our concepts of what's are functions. In the last class, I have given the introduction about functions, and we even started the recursive functions also. And actual the exploration of the functions we'll get only when we merge the concepts of functions with arrays as well as structures and pointers. Okay. So that we'll deal it in a subsequent or topics when we talk. Now, like as arrays, when we are talking, then we always merge with arrays and functions together. Likewise, okay. And today we'll continue our concept of recursions. Okay. So, what are the basic properties of recursions? I told you, Amma. I mean, which type of programs we can convert them into recursive function programs. And I told you that for recursive functions is very important, which develops the logic actually, thinking of a particular function, how thinking of a particular problem recursively. But tell me, what are the properties of recursive functions? So, if you want to write a particular program into a recursive manner, what you should have actually. We discussed
We
this
need to
also.
have a
Yes, please, Charita.
we need to have a base case,
Yeah, of course.
and it should iterate it until we reach that base case.
Very nice, Amma. So that we can say there are two important properties that a recursive function should have. One is a base condition, the other one is progressive form, or what's the non-recursive, I mean non what's the base case. So in base case, what's are you must have at least one base condition. You know, for example, if you talk about the Fibonacci series, there are two base cases you'll have, but mostly I mean for most of the problems you'll have only one, but few of them are there where we find the two or more base cases. So base case indicates about the stopping point of a particular recursive function. If you don't have the base case, then your recursive function will call itself infinite times. So to stop that infiniteness, to make your function finite, your function should have base case. So that's what the base condition. And the other form is what's our progressive form. The recursive call should progress in such a way that each time a recursive call is made, it come closer to the base case. Which means the other way we can say is a non-base case condition. So in a non-base condition, initially when we start with a non-base condition, and we go on recursively call the function until the function reaches to the base condition. So once if the base condition reached, your function call will stop. Otherwise, the function call will continue infinite times. So example in the last class we have seen that I think what do you say the same exponential, I mean power function a power n. So that a power n, suppose if we treat that as a function taking two arguments a and n, then the base case is what's are 1. We know that anything raised to 0 is 1. In mathematics we know that anything raised to 0 is 1. So thus we can say when n is 0, then the resultant value of the function is equal to 1. Otherwise it is equal to what's are a into f of a comma n minus 1. So there you observe that one we are reducing the value n by 1. So if you go on reduce the value n by 1, say for example n I have taken 5, then 5 in the next iteration will become 4, and then 4 to 3 we reach, and from 3 to 2, and finally somewhere okay we reach to 1. So when n will become 1, the base case is executed, a base condition is executed. So as a result of that, when the base condition is executed, it returns 1. So this what about the mathematical way of explaining about the recursion. And so many are there, like as you know factorial we can convert that into a recursion. This power function we can write it into a recursion, and you know Fibonacci series by default is a recursive form. So likewise so many or loop oriented programs, whatever that, if you properly think, and if in case you are having a base case to it, then definitely all the loop oriented programs can be converted into recursive functions. So this is what about the concept of recursion. Okay. And then what are the implementation details that place I mean in also interviews they may ask about how the recursion functions are in general, a function how it is implemented in C language. So this implemented details particularly in case of recursive one should know. So that's why I have added this concept. So when we talk about recursive functions or even in any function in C language, actually the programming implement the recursion by means of stack. Even the functions also, if you're having multiple functions and if one function is calling the other, so like this, based on the calling procedure, a stack is what's going to be developed, and that stack the details about within the stack, we store the activation record details, and the activation details are what are activation record details are what means related to that particular function. Whatever the local variables that we declared, the local variables, formal parameters, return address, and all other information, we store it as a part of the activation record, and this activation record will become an element, and that element is stored in the stack. And we know what is the stack. Stack is a data structure where what the procedure, I mean, how the elements are stored in stack and how the elements deleted from the stack, Amma? Anyone?
Push
Yes,
and
Amma.
pop operations, sir.
Okay, so what is the process that how elements will be pushed and how
Last
elements
in,
will
first
be
out.
last in, first out? That means what? Recently, the element which is stored in the stack is the element which will be deleted first. Therefore, the stack is also called as LIFO list. So, in the form of a stack, all this function call stuff is going to be stored. So, here let us see how the things will take place. Whenever a function which we call it as a caller, told you caller is a function which is calling some other function, and some other function which is called by this caller is called as Kali. So caller and caller, Kali. So here, whenever a function caller calls another function which we call it as a Kali, or itself can call, then the caller function transfers the execution control to the Kali along with the data passed from caller to Kali. So this is what overall the transfer of control and transfer of the data will take place, and the caller function will suspend its execution temporarily. Remember, once if the control is jumped from the caller, okay, then the caller it stops its execution temporarily and resumes later when the execution control returns from the Kali. So from caller, the control will jump to Kali, and the Kali will execute its body. After completion of the Kali execution, then the control will go back to the caller, and the caller will resume the what's the remaining execution. So this is what the control flow from caller to Kali which takes place. And when control returns from the Kali, the caller function needs to start exactly from the point of execution where it puts its on hold itself on hold. That means wherever it has stopped, in the middle only it has stopped, and the control is jumped to Kali. So when the control come back to the caller, it will resume its work from the place or the point where it actually hold, and it also needs to extract some data values it was working on. So for this purpose, an activation record is created for the caller function as well as even the Kali also. So this activation function is very important, which I can treat as an element which is stored in the stack. And that activation function or that activation record, sorry, will have an information about, just I told you, that local variables and formal parameters, including return address. So all this information is going to be stored as an element, and that element is pushed into the stack. So thus, the memory layout of a function related in C language can be imagined like this. Not only in C, many of the programming languages maintain in this way only. And for CSC and IT people, they are very much familiar. They learned again the same concepts in what are principles of programming languages. That how a function, when a function is called, how the memory about the function is going to be created. So all of you see that ECEEE people, if you see the right hand side, the main memory, when a particular function is also stored in the main memory, then within that main memory, the overall program related memory is divided into four portions. Total four portions. Here I have shown only three, but actually four portions will be generated. This is what the complete sheet we can take as a program. So at the bottom of the portion, if you see the right side, at the bottom, dark or say blue, the code portion, okay, that means whatever the object code is there which is taken from secondary memory, that object code is going to be stored here in this code portion. Okay, we call it as also text portion. So this text portion or code portion will have the object code. Okay, and followed to this particular what's the code portion, a static variable memory location is attached always, and this is fixed. Static variable location memory location is okay, fixed size. And this static variable memory location in which all the statically declared variables or globally declared variables, if any, are there in your program. So your program related are the static variables as well as the global variables are going to be stored here in this static memory location. And this is what the together called as a code portion. And above this code portion we have a stack memory, and above this stack memory we have heap here. In the stack memory, this is what the place where we are interested here. The function call when it takes place, then function call related, all the function related, that WhatsApp just now I told you, what it is, sir? What it is? Activation record. So activation record related, all the stuff is going to be stored, okay, as an element here. For example, here if you see that main function in which we have declared a variable called x here, that x is going to be stored here, okay, in the stack as a first element. And from this particular main function we are calling the function a. So therefore one more element activation record has to be created for this function a. And related to this activation function, so this particular function a, the activation record will have the information about the formal parameter. You don't have any other local variables in a. Only one variable is there, that too it is a formal parameter. So formal parameter information is going to be created as a activation record that will be stored here. So likewise, one upon the other, in the order of the call and order of the execution, the stack elements or the activation records are going to be generated and they will be stored in the stack. So this was the overall layout. And this stack goes on or increases when the number of calls or number of functions are getting increased. And remember, sometimes we get an error, stack overflow error also sometimes we get. If the stack size is drastically increases and if there is no place in the stack to store, then at that time your runtime error will come into the picture, where in the runtime error it throws that stack is overflow. So overflow stack error also possible to get actually if the function calls are many. Even the recursive function, when you are doing 100 times to 200 times, when you are go on creating or calling the recursive function, then in that case the 100 activation records have to be created. So if you are calling 100 times itself, similarly 200 times. Likewise, it depends upon the also number of calls. If the calls are increasing, the activation record sizes increases, and the time will come where the stack size will drastically also increases, and it throws an error, stack overflow. So you should be careful about the maintenance of this. And lastly, at the above of the stack memory, we have heap memory, and the heap memory is meant for storing the dynamically created memory. So dynamically created means, we are going to get in subsequent topics where in C language we have a facility there. We can also create the memory based on our requirement with the help of some functions like as malloc, calloc, realloc like functions are there, through which we can dynamically allocate the memory. Dynamically allocating the memory is nothing but at the time of running the program, when you are in run mode, at that time we can decide how much memory we need. But here in this example, all the variables are okay. What's that? Non-dynamic memories. There are fixed memories. So likewise, we can imagine about a what's a layout of a particular function when we are calling, okay, in C, or when we are using it in C. The same thing here, we can say, suppose if A is calling once again one more the same function A, then one more activation record will be created. So likewise, the activation records are going to be created, they will be stored in the stack. So this we have to remember. Then how the overall thing going to be executed recursively means the execution flows like this. Say I have taken a snapshot of this particular one. Some function here, sum of natural numbers, if you want to do up to n, that is sigma n. Direct formula is there, n into n plus 1 by t, using which we can do. But here recursively I want to calculate the sum of natural numbers. So the sum of natural numbers recursively, when you are doing it, tell me, sir, what is the base and non-base cases if you are designing it as a recursive function? So we know that it is what, sir? Sigma. We are talking about sigma n here. So what is this meaning if I treat this as f of n? Then what, sir? we start, suppose sigma 5, if I say that, then 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, we stop here. It's nothing but sigma 5. I mean, that is 5 into 6 by 2, or how much sum na? 15 kada? Okay, it's 15. So this is what the overall sum of first 5 natural numbers. So how can you design this into a recursion means? Think about that. Do we have a base case here means? Yes sir, base case is there. If n is equal to 1, then return 1. Otherwise, else return what? N plus
Into n plus
f
1
of
by 2.
f of n minus 1. No. I'm talking about recursive function. I'm not talking about using of direct formula called n into n plus 1 by 2. I know that sigma n is, we all know sigma n is n into n plus 1 by 2, but I don't want to use the direct function. Rather, I want you do this programming using recursion. So this what about that? First n, then f of n minus 1. So how this is going to be executed means, suppose if I take n is equal to 5, if in case n is equal to 5, then what will have here? N is not equal to 1. So therefore it goes to the else case, and in the else case it returns what's up? N is 5 plus f of 5 minus 1, which is 4. So that means the same function we are calling again. So when you are calling the same function again it checks the if and else cases. So in the if again, this time n is 4 and 4 is not equal to 1. So again it will come to this particular portion, and you will have what's up? 5 plus this f of 4 when it is executed, you will have what's up? 4 plus f of 4 minus 1. The same code is going to be executed. F of 4 minus 1 is what? 3 here. So now again f of 3 we are calling, and n is not equal to 1 again. So therefore further it will become what's up? 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus this same else code is going to be executed because n is not 1. So 3 plus f of 3 minus 1 is 2 here. And here in case of 2 here, when we check that n is not equal to still 1, so this f of 2 has to be executed. So again it will go to the else case, and in the else case we have 5 plus 4 plus 3 is already there, plus f of 2, this else portion will execute like this: 2 plus f of how much sir? 2 plus f of, yes amma, 2 plus f of 1. So let me write here 2 plus f of 1. And here finally n reaches to 1. Because of n reaches to 1, this is what the base case which is encountered. And since base case is encountered, so it will return 1. So thus this function call is not there anymore. So this recursive function call is stopped. In this place it is returned 1. So 1 plus 2 is 3, and 3 is returned to this particular portion. So 3 plus 3 is 6, 6 plus 4 is 10, 10 plus 5 is 15. So finally that 15 is going to be returned to the main function in case if you are calling from main. So this is what about the overall execution of that recursive form. And the same thing is what explained here also. The code is here at the left side here. I'm asking to enter some number, and that number is passed to some function, and sum is called recursively. So when sum is called recursively, let us see that the same execution here. N is taken, so num is taken as 3, sir. Initially number is 3 here. So when it is 3, then it will get into the body. N is not equal to 0. Therefore, if condition is going to be executed, and as a result of that, 3 plus sum of 3 minus 1, that is 2. And then sum of 2 is again a recursive call. So in that recursive call, again n is not equal to 0. So you'll have again 2 plus sum of 2 minus 1, which is 1. So likewise it will continue. And once if the recursive function goes to the base case here, from there onwards the return values go on through up to the main function. So at the bottom 0 is written, then 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 is written to the its caller, and its caller again there 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 is written to its caller, and 3 plus 3 is resultant 6, which finally return to the main function. So this is what about the overall execution flow of your recursive functions. In case if you have any sort of doubts here in this, please clear Amma. Can anybody tell me what is the Fibonacci series? Let me ask you. Yes, Amma. Anyone is familiar about Fibonacci series? 0 and 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus preceding value 5. 5 plus
Addition
its preceding
previous
value is,
consecutive.
yeah, preceding only, immediate preceding value only will be added to the current value to generate the new value. So here, that's what here. 0 and 1 are initial values, and 0 plus 1 is 1. And now if you want one more number, one next number, then 1 and its preceding to be added, okay, which results to 2. And now next number, if you want 2 and its preceding value is what? 1. Okay, so results to 3. Likewise it goes 8, and 8 plus 3 is 13. This is what the series. With this series we call it as a Fibonacci series. Now tell me what is the design of this particular Fibonacci series. Can you implement this by using what's recursion? Can you implement this using the recursive function? The answer is yes, sir.
If n is 0, written 1. If n is 1, written 1. Else written f of n minus 1 plus f of n minus 2.
No, must slight change is required. Of course, I agree that this is a recursive function which contains two base cases. Two base cases are there. One base case is what? It returns 0 if n is 0. Okay. If n is 0, it returns 0. It returns 1 if n is 1. Otherwise, it returns f of n minus 1 plus f of n minus 2. A new number is equal to sum of the two preceding numbers. And this is where if n is greater than or equal to 2. So for example, up to this, which one? Up to 8, if I want to generate, then what will have here? Let us see that. What will have, sir? 8 Fibonacci number. So n is equal to 8 here. In case if I take, tell me what the answer. It is not equal to 0 because n is not 0, not even 1. So here it will come, and you will find what, sir? 8 minus 1, 7 plus f of how much? 6 here. Okay, and f of n is what, sir? It is f of how much? Non-base cases again. 6 plus f of 5. And f of 6 is what, sir? F of 5 plus f of 4. So like this, f of, okay, 5 will become sir, f of 4 plus f of 3. So likely we are one by one reducing. Then f of 4 will become f of 3 plus f of 2. So 5, and lastly f of 3 will become f of 2 plus f of 1, and f of 2 is further f of 1 plus f of 0. So this was the first half only, and the second half anyhow is there already. So here f of 1 and f of 0 together is nothing but the two base cases, and they return their respective values 0 plus 1, which is results to 1, and that will be stored here, sir, for in the place of f of 2, and f of 1 is already 1. So 1 plus 2 is 3 here. 3 will be written here. So likewise, it goes on written, and you will get a series, not series, sir, a particular number, 8 Fibonacci number, I think you will get. Okay. This is what the execution, and this we can execute it into a code also. Okay. All of you, be interactive. Otherwise, class will become dull. Yes, Amma. EC triple people. Hello. No one is there in the class. EC triple E. Yes, Amma. In the next class, what I will do, I'll keep the named list here to check that who are that people from EC and who are from triple E, so that I can concentrate on them. These basics which I am teaching. Anyone? EC triple E people, respond.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Aisha, Siddiqui, who else? Bharani, are you all following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. Okay, Namma, okay. So now I'm not showing any execution, Amma. Remember, they're all simple. Now let us go further here. These recursions further can be two ways we have. One we call it as a tail recursion, the other one is head recursion. This is the question which is asked previously in many interviews. So what do you mean by tail recursion and what do you mean by head recursion? We'll discuss. Yes, Aisha. You have any doubt? Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Now, tail recursion is what? If the recursive call is the last statement in the function, then it's known as tail recursion. I repeat, if the recursive call is the last statement in the function, that we are talking about the recursive function only. Within the recursive function, if the recursive call itself is the last statement, then we call it as a tail recursion. So the function has to process or perform any operation at the time of calling, and it does nothing after the return time. So that means because of we are calling it at the end, the recursive call we are performing at the end after performing other operations. So therefore, finally, you will have only return statement. So for example, here, I have written that main function, and from that function x I'm calling, and x is 3, which I passed here. But our interest is that the function fun is called after which particular statement, that we are interested here. So see this one, in the if condition, if n is greater than 0, then we are performing something first. Likewise, here we are simply printing the n value, and then we are calling the function. After this function call, we don't have any other statements. That's what important here. After function call, we don't have any other statement. Observe carefully. That's what the definition of tail recursion. If the recursive call is the last statement in the function, then it is known as tail recursion. Yes, after fun of n minus 1, here is that fun function, once again we are calling the same function we are calling by passing the reduced value. And when you are passing this by reduction, after this function call, we don't have any other statements to perform. What are the statements are there? Before this function call only we are doing it. So such a recursive function call is called as a tail recursive function. And we can imagine the tail and head recursive functions. I'll show you in a short through diagrammatically. And opposite to this, the head recursion. If the recursive call is the first statement in the function, there in the tail recursion, if the recursive call is the last statement. Here in the head recursion, if the recursive call is the first statement in the function, then it is known as head recursion. So I repeat, if it is last, then it is tail recursion. If it is in the beginning, if the recursive call is in the beginning itself, then it is called as a head recursion. And there is no statement or no operation before the call. Remember that we should not perform any operations before this call. There, in the tail recursion, we should not perform any operations after the call. So that's what the difference here. And the same program here, what I'm doing, same if condition is there, same printf statement is there, same function call fun with the reduction value is there. But observe that printf is written after function call. That's what here we are doing it. And such a recursive call is called as a head recursion. And these two we can imagine like this here as a tree diagram. In the tail recursion, you see that x is 3. You see, if it is a code, x is 3 here. In the tail recursion, first of all, initially the main function will call the fun function by passing 3. So that's what the root node. And there, that root node, what it will do, it first prints here. See the tail recursion. It prints the value first and then recursively calls itself by reducing the value. So that's what here. It prints 3 and then calls the function by reducing its values. What the value reduction? 3 minus 1 is 2. So fun of 2 we got. And this fun of 2, once again, since it is greater than 0, therefore 2 will be printed first, and then a recursive call is going to be generated by reducing the value 1 from 2. So there you will have f of 1 there. And this f of 1 in which n is 1, which is greater than 0, therefore first 1 will be printed, then the return, or sorry, f of 0 will be there. So when f of 0 is there, nothing is going to be performed, will come out. So as a result, when you see the output, you will have 3, 2, 1, which is going to be printed. And remember that the digits in the red showing are the order in which the calls are made, and according to the order of the calling, the outputs are printed on the screen. And when you trace this one, the tracing will from top to bottom, as if we see. And on the other hand, in head recursion, let us see that. First, what we'll do, we go up to our 0 base case, and once if the base case is encountered, we then start printing the values. That's why the output is 1 to 3. Observe that there is a much difference here. Same value are passed, same 3 is passed from the main function, but when we are writing it as a tail recursion, we are getting 3 to 1 as an output. When we are writing the same recursive function in a head recursive way, we are getting the output as, or we'll get the output as 1, 2, 3. So in the head recursion, we trace the tree as if we are tracing or traversing the tree in a depth first manner, whereas in the tail recursion, we feel as if we are traversing the tree in a breadth first fashion. First 3 will be printed, then right side. But tail recursion, you observe that. Start from fun 3, then print the left portion, then come to the right portion, call the function. So let me see this. I can imagine like this, or you can understand this as what's the breadth and depth first fashions. So the tail recursion goes like this. F of 3 is what? From main we called. From main function we called f of 3. And here f of 3, what it will do in the tail recursion, first it prints the 3 value, then go to the right side and call the same function by reducing its value by 1. So f of 2 will come. So from 3 we are reaching to, from root node we are reaching to 3, and 3 we are moving to f of 2. And this f of 2, since it is recursively called and no base case is encountered, so we come first to the left branch, we finish it, and we'll come to the right by creating or generating the recursive call by reducing 1. And then we come to the left side, we print the value of 1, and then again we go to the right side and call the function by passing 0. So this is what the base case, no more executions will take place. So this is the way that the output will get 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we feel as if we are moving in breadth first fashion. Breadth wise we are moving it. First start with root node, then go to the left branch and its sibling you finish. After sibling, then again down. Okay, it's a child node you come, and then from child node to its sibling. So like this we go. Whereas in a head recursion, we go in different. F of 3 is there, we here do what, sir? First recursively we call, and from 2 we further recursively call to 1, and from 1 we recursively call to 0. But 0 is what's our base case, so we go back to the root node, and here we print, because after calling we are printing. Observe that. Head recursion, first you recursively call the function, then print the value. So therefore, after finishing of all the calls, when the recursive function is stopped here, it goes to the root node and prints the 1 value. And then after finishing of this level, we go back to its root node and prints the 2 value. Then after finishing this one, we go to its root and prints the 3 value. Therefore, the answer is 1, 2, 3. That was the major difference. In tail recursion, we are getting 3 to 1, whereas in the head recursion, we are getting 1, 2, 3. Okay, hope that you understand about this important concept, which is asked in the interviews, the question. Then we also have the nested recursion, like as how nesting of loops we do, how nesting of if conditions we do, and nesting of recursion also we can show. So one of the examples here, observe carefully. There I have taken a function fun by passing 95, and that fun function is called, and the resultant finally whatever that is written, that we are storing it in R, that we are printing it. Now, if I go back here, since the function is called by passing 95, so in fun function, n is holding 95. And here, in that one, if n is greater than 100, then directly, without creating any recursive function, I'm asking to return n minus 10. That means what? It is my base case. If n greater than 100, then base case will encounter and will return n minus 10 value. Okay. If it is not true, then in general, it always goes in a recursive way. In recursive way, when I'm asking about the return, observe the return statement, fun is function itself. To fun function, I'm passing the argument, which is again a function itself, and that to the same function, fun of n plus 11, by passing n plus 11. So can anybody tell me what is the output of this one? Take your own time and tell me. This is possible, of course. We can nest the recursive functions. That means we can call a function from calling of another function. So fun of n plus 11, 2-level recursive nesting I have shown. So tell me what is the output of this one. Take your own time and tell me. Just trace it. Just trace it. Yes, Amma, I'm waiting.
$97, sir.
Not correct, Amma.
101, sir.
No, Amma.
96, sir.
No, not even 96 also. Observe carefully, observe. Just trace it once again. Well, try. At least you are trying. So, two recursive calls. There are two recursive calls. The internal recursive function call should stop. Then only external will come into the picture, and finally the value will be returned to main, which is going to be stored in R. Yes, Amma. Anyone is trying? Yes, Charita or anyone. See, 95 is
85, sir.
100, sir.
no, not even 100 or 85. Okay, I'll tell you that. I will reveal. The answer is 91, Amma. Finally, you will get. How it is 91? See, we initially pass. First time when it's called from main function, we pass 95 to it. It is, let me explain about the first case. So, f is holding 95. It will get into its body. And what I told you that in the recursive call, if n is greater than 100, then return, in short I'm writing RT, n minus 10. Otherwise, not otherwise, it's not else case. Return f of n plus 11. I said the code is like this. So since n is 95 and it is not greater than 100, okay, so this base case will not be encountered. It will come as usual in a regular flow to this particular point, and at this point it is f of n is what, sir? 95 plus 11. How much? Or not 6 here. So here f of 106 is encountered, and f of 106 when it is encountered, this is what the call which is made to the same function. So for this one, I can say f of 106, and again I will write the same code so that tracing will become very easy. N, if it is greater than 100, then return n minus 10. Otherwise return, not otherwise again, sorry, as usual f of n plus 11, you go. So from here we called internally this f of 106, and since n is 106 which is greater than 100, therefore base case is what encountered, and in the base case what is that value which we are returning? 106 minus 10. How much, Amma?
96.
96.
96 is what placed here in this one. 96. But still there is one more function, okay, externally we have, which is f itself. Now this time to this f we are passing 96. So now we'll go again in a new way. I told you that program counter is going to be generated and local variables related to this third call is going to be also pushed into the stack. So this time n is 96. So since n is 96, what will happen here? It is not coming to the base case. So here it will come. So you'll have f of how much, Amma? 96 plus 1. I think 107. Am I right? Okay, Amma?
Yes, sir.
Now 106 లో మళ్ళీ ఏమవుతుంది? Again it will call as if it is 106 now. 106 లో n is greater than 100 కనుక 106 minus 10, no 107. So 107 minus 10, how much? 97.
7.
So 97. In place of this here, 97 is returned. Okay, from this call, because he can call చేసాం. So it has become f of 97. మళ్ళీ ఒకటే ఫంక్షన్ ఉంది. ఈ ఒకటే ఫంక్షన్ మళ్ళీ సార్ రికర్సివ్ కాల్ అయినప్పుడు n will become 97 and it is not greater than 100. So rt of what sir, f of 97 plus 1 plus 11 is I think 108. Am I right? Again there are two calls. Now this 108 is going to be executed, and when this 108 f of 108 is executed, base case will get encountered. 108 minus 10 is how much? 98. So here this 98 is going to be placed. We'll have f of 98. Mali single call మిగిలిపోయింది. Now this single call again, f of 98 will go back here, check the value. So in place of n we have 98, and 98 is not greater than 100. So from here again two recursive calls are going to be generated. rt of f of 98 plus 11. How much amma?
109.
109. Mala there are two calls are there. An internal call is going to be executed where base case is going to be encountered because it is greater than 100. So now 109 minus 10 means what? 98 is returned here back. So we will have f of 98. Mali 98, that means again the two calls are now become one call. Now this 98 is again
So
passed.
109 minus 10 is 99. No, sir.
Okay, 99. Thank you, Amma. Thank you. Right. 99. So single call again. Now 99 again passed to the function, and the same function is called, but base case is not encountered. So we'll have for this one return f of 99 plus how much, Amma? 11. 99 plus 11. Anyone?
110.
110. So again this 110 is greater than 100. So the base case is going to be executed, and internally this will be filled with 110 minus 10. How much? 100. So we have f of 100 here. And f of 100 is when it's called f of 100 in which 100 is not greater than 100. So again base case will come into the picture. So rt is equal to f of 100 plus 11 is 111. So two calls first initially two calls will be there, and the two internal call will be vanished and external call will be there like this. So for f of 111 again base count case is encountered. So 111 minus how much? 10 is 101. So we have again single call 101. F of 101 here finally, okay, no more what's the recursive calls will be there. You'll have n which is 101 greater than 100. So finally n minus 10, that is 101 minus 10 is going to be finally returned. So which is how much? 90? How much, Amma?
91.
91 is finally returned to whom? Now you won't find any more what's the recursive calls here. This finally 91 will be returned to main here. And in that main, I think we are stored the resultant in R and which we are printing it. That's why the result is shown as what's that? 91. So carefully if you trace. I think then time is మీరు trace చేసేవాళ్ళు. It's not mean that it is not possible. You can easily trace. That's what the same thing I have shown here, sir. First 95 is passed. Two functions are there. Internal function and external function. Both are same functions themselves. So for internal function, when it is executed, at the right side I have shown that the resultant is 106, which is more than 100. Base case is encountered. You will have 96, which will be returned. Okay, back to this particular one, and we'll have f of 96. The resultant will become f of 96, and this f of 96 further will become again two function calls, one into the other as a nexting. And the internal function will hold 107, which comes into the base case and will return 97. Resultant will become f of 97. F of 97 when it is executed, again two functions will be generated, one into the other. So like this process will continue, and finally when we see we'll have 91 as a result of this. So this is what about the nested recursion. Interesting. So we got three important new things which generally we won't teach in what regular classes. That is, what do you mean by tail recursion? What do you mean by head recursion? What do you mean by nested recursion? So these generally we won't stress. Okay, Namma? All of you, hope that you all understand. So if you want, I'll execute the same code here. Whether this nested recursion is possible or not, we'll see this through execution. So what it was, sir? Yes, Amma. Shall I write function first?
Yes, sir.
FUNCT function holding n, and if n is greater than 100, not greater than or equal to, then return n minus 10. You can keep that return value in parentheses or without parentheses also we can write. Now this, the next line which I am writing is not the else case, it is a regular statement. Now this statement executes only if this condition is true, and when this condition true, it will not come to the third statement which I am going to write now. Return, what is return, sir? FUNCT of n plus 11. Sir, no parenthesis, is that okay? Okay, fine. So this was the simple code. Now from main, what I did, I have taken a temporary variable r, local variables not, okay, not temporary, local variable. Now this to this, let me call the function by passing 95, I think we pass. And I'm interested in printing the value of r. R is equal to comma r. Right, Amma. Let me compile this. Yeah, no warnings, no errors. You will execute also. Observe that carefully. R is equal to, we got as what? 91. See, this R is equal to 91 is an answer we got. So this is what about the nested recursion. And in case suppose, just I want to show the importance of declaration. In case the same code if I write after main, then anyone tell me what is the just a simple thing I want to just demonstrate.
Prototype. Functional
Prototype
prototype.
declare. Prototype is mandatory. So are you going to get any error? Some additional points I'm explaining because we already opened the code. That's why.
Yes, sir, it must be declared before using.
So are you going to get error or you are going to get warning? Actually, you are going to get what's a warning. Let us see that. Observe warning, implicit declaration of function FUNCT. Okay. We have not specified explicitly what it is. So we have to declare it here. What it is? Int FUNCT of holding only one parameter, that too of integer type, and then keeping semicolon. So this is what the prototype declaration. Declared it, let us say, are you going to get the same warning? No, we didn't get this time the warning. Okay. Are you getting a mark? Now you can even check the other things also. Same thing here. Before I'm calling here, what I did, above not only in global position, you can declare it anywhere, that particular function. That is quite enough. No need that it should be declared in the global location only. You can even declare it internally also in another function. Like as here, I have declared that FUNCT internally in the main, that return type is integer, function name is FUNCT, and it is holding an argument of integer type and then semicolon. But this I did it before I call the function. From here I'm calling, and before I call this, I declared it. So this is also quite okay. No warning you will get. So this is what about the way that how the things are going to be executed. Now you can even similarly check the other things also, like as what do you say, tail recursion and head recursions, which we just now demonstrated. Okay, Nama, all of you? Yes, Amma.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes, sir.
I'll stop it here because I have very less time, because the next topic is parameter passing techniques, Amma. Very important, where I have to initially explain about the concept called pointers here. Basics of pointers only I'm going to explain, not in detail. because pointers again we'll deal with in separately. So pointers concept is mandatory. So in the next class, initially, what is the basics of a pointers in C? What is the role of pointer variable in C? And then what are the parameter passing methods that we have? Call by value and call by reference. That's what our next topic. And miscellaneous, if any are there, that also we'll cover it in the next one. Like as variable number of arguments function is there, command line arguments function is there. Like as to the main also we can pass the arguments. So all these topics we'll cover it in the next class. With that, we are going to wind up the functions. Okay, Namma. So all of you, thank you. I'm winding up here. Chandrika madam, is she there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Now I'm stopping, madam, here.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.